Hi everybody and welcome back. Having mapped out our octaves, we're going to continue our mapping process, and this time I want to move to a scale, but we're not going to do it the way you're used to using scales. In fact, I'm not even going to give you the entire pattern to start with, because what I'm looking to do is to focus in on certain tones, certain notes within the pattern. And there is both a physical, in terms of the fretboard mapping, and an ear training in terms of the sound aspect to what we're doing here. And ultimately, keep in mind that to have a real command of chords, you need to be able to identify different tones and find them in different places on the neck. So if part of you went, well, wait a minute, why are we looking at scales in a rhythm course? This is why. Because ultimately, it's about rhythm, but it's about being able to find all the different notes around the neck so you can play all different kinds of chords. So we're going to start off in the key of G, and so I'd like to establish simply our octaves at the 3rd fret of the 6th string, at the 3rd fret of the 1st string, our open string here. And so what I'm going to do in our exercise is just walk through the scale focusing on certain tones, focusing on certain notes and on certain patterns. Remember, I've said before that everything you do really should be cumulative. That even if the next song you go to or the next exercise you go to is easier than the one you did before, hopefully it's filling in some piece of information, and if it's not, it's reinforcing some other. So in that way, you can stop feeling like you're going in circles, because it's not like, oh, I'm just sitting in the same place. When you do return to something that's easy, you should be able to do it with more confidence than you did it the last time. Just always remember that. We're going to be able to identify particular interval patterns on the neck just in the same way that we've identified octaves, because let's face it, an octave is simply another interval, a distance from one note to another. And we can use our chords, our familiar, even open position chords, to help with this as well. Let's say I play an open position G. Well, it's going to be very helpful for me to be aware that all of these notes belong to the G major scale. In other words, I passed through each one of the notes of the chord in the process of playing that scale, and these are the things that we want to spotlight. The important tones within the scale that we need right now are the 3rd and the 5th notes of each sequence. We use the term scale degrees to signify where a note is in the scale pattern, and it's simply following the musical alphabet. So that means if we're in the key of G, that G is note 1, A is the 2nd note of the scale, and therefore it's note 2, B is the 3rd note of the scale, and therefore it's note 3, and so we refer to those numbers as scale degrees. 1, 2, 3. And now this is a relationship that you should be looking for in the future. Adjacent string 1 fret back is a major 3rd, whether we do it here, or here, or here, or even here. As before, with the octave shapes, it's when we get to the 2nd string that things change. But on the lower pairs, a 3rd is a 3rd is a 3rd. And here it is in the G scale. The exercise is going to go through several intervals like this, the 3rd, the 5th. Be aware that since we're in open position, of course, we're not necessarily using movable patterns, or rather, the movable patterns are a step removed from the open position because we have to account for the open string. Just in the same way that I related this to this and said it really is the same form, 2 frets apart and skip a string, but the actual fingering looks different. However, if you think about the formation, over a string, over 2 frets, then whether we're here or here, it's really the same thing. So if I play this, for example, as a 5th, we want to recognize that that's actually skip a string and 3 frets back. And you will use this. The more common fifth you'll see is this. And it's very possible you're familiar with this already. Fifths. So that one you may already know. You might know the octaves too, because the fifth and the octave make up our old friend, the power chord. Root, fifth, octave, root, fifth, octave, root, fifth, octave. So we're going to come across that again. But right now, as we go to this exercise, keep in mind that the fingerings are a bit more involved and you may not see the patterns right away. That's okay. Use your ear. We're listening for how do things relate to the octave. G, in the key of G, is our primary note. We understand the role of all the other notes, the function of all the other notes through their relationship to G. For example, playing a D and hearing it as a fifth. The sound of a fifth is the sound of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. D is not inherently a fifth, it's just a fifth in the key of G. But D could be the root in the key of D. And now the fifth is over here. Here's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. This part of the process really does take time because there's so many permutations. But know that every exercise is a small step in the process and we're going to continue to build. So when you're ready, let's take a crack at this exercise.